Well, I mean, here's the thing too. It's like in the mini camp, Jennings looked really good. He was very productive. Okay, but then he's also a guy who doesn't run all that fast, and he's 28. So I mean, it's not like he's. You could probably make the
Yeah.
argument that he's probably already played his best football. So I don't know. I mean, I know that sounds really cold. I know there are people that would be like, dude, where's the appreciation for this guy who's made big catch after big catch? And it's true. The rest of
Yeah.
these guys are somewhat hype compared to him. He's like the truth. This guy like shows up. Super Bowl Sunday. What's Debo gonna do? Nothing. But Jawan's gonna show up.
Yeah.
Super Bowl Sunday. What's Ayuk gonna do? He didn't do much.
He didn't do nothing, but
Didn't
Jennings
do
showed up.
much. But Jennings showed up.
Great player.
So, in some ways, this guy is the guy that those guys were supposed to be. But then in the NFL, like, okay, so then there was Bleacher Report today had 4 trades listed, and I'll throw them your way. But I got to be honest, I kind of think, sometimes I'll read these trades and I'll be like, man, they devalued our players. Especially in the Bleacher Report trades. I've read a lot of them this offseason about Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors, right? And it's always like, trade Jonathan Kuminga for Kelly Olynyk or something. It's like, what?
What
No,
are you talking about?
I'm not trading some super athletic 24-year-old awesome talent guy for some stiff white guy with a headband. Sorry, I'm not doing it. So a lot of times, Bleacher Report has these trades and they devalue the guys. I kind of think they're overvaluing Jawan Jennings. Here are the 4 trades, and you tell me if you think these. To me, it's like I think these all seem like dramatic overpays. Now maybe I'm, and I like Jawan Jennings, and if anybody should appreciate him, it's us, right? Because we've watched it, and we've watched it. We've watched, like, if in the biggest moment of the year. If Brock Purdy went to Jawan Jennings, no Niner fan who knows the Niners would complain because he is our money guy. Like, when the money is on the table, and he earned third and Jawan. You know what I mean? That wasn't just like some T-shirt that was sold at some, after the game. This guy earned that. All right, here are the 4 trades. You tell me what you think of these. The first one sends Jennings to the Raiders for a 2026 third-round pick and Trey Tucker, who's a kind of a speedy little receiver. He himself was a 2023 third-round pick. Okay, that's their offer. A third-round pick and Trey Tucker. Now, to me, that seems really high. Now, I know Trey Tucker is nothing, but a third-round pick? They got a 5th for Debo. They're going to get a 3rd for Debo's backup? That seems odd to me, but whatever. So that's the first trade. The Jennings to the Raiders for a 3rd and Trey Tucker. Then the second one is Jennings to the Patriots for a 2026 4th and Jalen Polk, who was their 2nd-round pick last year, but he was kind of a bust out of UW. Interesting. 4th-round pick and Jalen Polk. The third trade option is Jennings to the New York Jets, which I really don't see because I think the Jets are, as I said before, kind of loaded at receiver.
Yeah.
But this one is Jennings to the Jets for a 2026 5th and then a 2027 3rd. I mean, I'm doing that trade. There's no doubt. I would do that. And then the last one is Jennings to the Steelers for a 2026 3rd-round pick and Calvin Austin.
That's not bad.
And I would do that too. Like, I'm looking at these trades, and I would do all 4 of those trades just because I don't think I would probably do the Patriots one because I'd rather have the 3rd-round pick, and I'm not a big fan of Jalen Polk. He really wasn't very good last year. And I'm not a Trey Tucker fan. But, like, if I could take that Raider trade and instead of a 3rd and Trey Tucker, if I could get, like, a 3rd and Michael Mayer, I would do it. Or if the New England trade, if I could get a 4th and instead of Jalen Polk, I could get that rookie receiver they have, Chisholm, I would do that. To the Jets, if I could get those 2 picks, I would do that. If I could trade that 5th-round pick for Malachi Corley and have Corley in a 3rd, I would definitely do that. And for the Steelers, a 26th third and a Calvin Austin, I would do that. I think I would rather have like a Beanie Bishop, who's a corner the Niners need, probably more than Calvin Austin, but that is neither here nor there. I would do that trade. All four of those trades, like any trade that nets you a third round draft choice in next year's draft, I would do.
Third round pick, yeah. Steelers trade is great. And again, I love Jawan Jennings, and you can't replace his clutch factor and his blocking. And I've said all that, and I know the fans are like, you can't trade him. He's a dog. He's this. He's gritty. Yeah, but he's also 28. He runs a 4.7 speed. I don't know if a lot of other teams would value him as much as the Niner fans do. Again, I love the guy, but if you can get a third round pick for a guy that was a 7th round pick, a smart business. And again, we don't even know how much he's asking for. If it's 15 to 20, you might think about trading him. If you get a third round pick, it's good business. But again, I love him, and I know a lot of people are saying, he's got the contested catch ability, gets those 50-50 balls. Yeah, I'm not denying any of that. But at the same time, he had to step up. He had a career year because he didn't have anybody. So if you drafted these young receivers like Pearsall and Cowing, and you have high hopes for them, they got to sink or swim at some point, and you got to hope that they can step up. And I get it. Jawan Jennings, he's supposed to be the wide receiver 1 this year. But at the same time, he's going to get double teams, triple teams. So those other guys are going to have to step up regardless, right? And I think at this point, if he's asking for too much, I don't think trading him for a third round pick's the worst business you could do. Because, again, at this point in his career, he's old. He's, I wouldn't say old, but he's getting up to that point where it's like, he might hit a decline. And at this point, with the amount of blocking he's done and everything, maybe it is smart to trade him for a third round pick and let him go prove. What if he goes to like Cleveland or Tennessee? Then he'd be their top wide receiver. He can go out there, prove that he's a wide receiver 1, get his money and do his thing. And again, I would hate to see, that big catch ability leave the team, because I think he is important to the 49ers with what he's done. But at the same time, if you want all this money and you're not willing to be a team player, you might need to go. Because again, my whole theory, my whole base of this argument is he asked for extension 2nd year of his contract. What if he signs another 2-year contract and then next year he does it again? Let's say he plays great, gets a 2-year extension, has a career year, and he goes back to the front office and says, hey, look, John, I need you to pay me again. I just think it's setting the precedent.
I'm going to give you, so those were Bleacher Report's ideas, okay? And I think they're good ideas, as I said. I think, and as Raj and I kind of are pretty much in lockstep on this. We're, this is a bad live stream because we're both, in agreement, but I think we see it exactly the same. We both have unbelievable appreciation for Jauan, but we also both understand there's limits. And here's the other thing about this. And I don't know what you think of this one, but the 49ers stated new position was that they were going to be ruthless in contract negotiations. And then they gave Purdy $265 million. They extended Fred. They extended Kittle. I haven't seen ruthless 49er negotiation. And if they give Jennings, if they tear up his existing contract and give him another new contract, how can you say you're being ruthless? And not that ruthless is something that we all want, but that was their stated position. We're going to be ruthless. Well, if you're going to be ruthless, I don't think you're going to, suddenly throw 17, 18, 19 million at Jawan Jennings. But let me give you 2 teams that I think do make sense. The first team, and I'm going to share the screen on these. The first team, you got to think about, where is Jawan Jennings have true value? Where's his value? His value is in a couple fronts. He's very valuable inside the state of Tennessee. He went to Tennessee. He's beloved in Tennessee. And this is a brand new regime with a brand new quarterback. I mean, if I was Cam Ward, I would want Jawan Jennings. Right? If I'm Cam Ward and I'm looking to make it in the NFL, damn right I want Jawan Jennings. So let's see what they have. Looking at their wide receiver core, this current regime inherited Calvin Ridley. I would gladly take Calvin Ridley. They signed Van Jefferson. They signed Tyler Lockett. They drafted Xavier Strepo. They drafted or they signed Xavier Strepo as a free agent. That's unbelievable. And they drafted Alec Ayamanor. They still have Traylon Burks, Prochet. They got a lot of guys here. What do you think of Jawan Jennings to the Titans for like Traylon Burks and Alec Ayamanor?
I mean, they're
They
not guys
get
that.
you get that receiver that was the Niners showed so much interest in the spring. Granted, he's raw. He's just a big, strong, fast guy. And Burks has also kind of been disappointing. But he's big, and once upon a time he was a first round pick. I mean, you would add two big receivers. Obviously, neither's Jennings, but who knows? Maybe I am an or maybe Burks could. I mean, they're probably better talents than Jennings. But what do you think of that? Because I mean, you trade Jawan Jennings to Tennessee, and I think that would be a very, very popular move by the Titans.
Oh yeah,
Their
I think
brand new
so.
GM Mike Borgonzi. I mean, you go acquire a popular Vol. They also have Roger McCreary, the corner. I wouldn't mind Roger McCreary. They have Arden Key if you're looking for more pass rush. I mean, they
Think of
have
that.
some. They have other guys, but as far as if you just want to go receiver for receiver, I would trade Juwan for Alec Ayamanor and Traylon Burks, and go 2 for 1. See if you can hit that. Would be interesting to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I mean, I know they're not names that scream out the off the board, and I know Niner fans would probably say, "Oh, it's terrible. Juwan's better than them."
Yeah.
But if you're gonna get rid of them and get a receiver, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst case scenario, right? I would still take a good draft pick if you can get it. If you can get a third round pick, that's where I would value him at. Hopefully, they could snag that in there. But yeah, no, I wouldn't hate that for those two receivers because they're still young. They're still, talented guys that maybe they can hit with the 49ers, right? Again, you have a lot of young guys, and maybe one of those guys can step up and take the reins, just like Jawan Jennings did, right? He was called upon to step up and make a name for himself, which over the last couple of years he worked his way up the roster. So I get it why people would be upset if they trade him. I wouldn't hate that, but I wouldn't love that as some of the other trades that you had mentioned earlier. So
Here's the other one that I like. And this one to me, if you say who would want Juwan? And to me, when we talked about this, wide receiver more than the other positions on the football team are really about the complementary deal, right? You can't have 10, guys with burning speed, but nobody who can catch a third down pass, and you can't have a bunch of possession receivers and no speed. You got to have a blend. So who needs Jawan Jennings? You know who needs Jawan Jennings? The Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins need Jawan Jennings. Why? Well, and I'm going to share the screen on their depth chart. They have Tyreek Hill, burner. They have Jalen Waddle, burner, right? They've got Mike McDaniel, head coach, under some pressure. But they don't have, they just traded, the tight end, Jonnu Smith. They added Darren Waller, but they don't really have, who's also a, very speedy tight end. They don't have that for sure move the chains, continuity receiver. What do you think of this one? What about Jawan Jennings to the Dolphins for Malik Washington, who was their 6th-round pick last year? He is a smallish slot receiver out of Virginia, but he's very strong-handed. It would be trading an older slot receiver with size for a younger slot receiver who lacks size. But Malik Washington's really good. If I could get Malik Washington and a pick, and get younger and get out from underneath all the money of Jawan's demanding, and I would do that. So the Dolphins to me make sense because they need a receiver like Jawan, and they have Malik Washington to throw back to the Niners, and I think Malik Washington would be a really, really nice 49er. So those would be the two.
I think that's where I disagree with you, Larry. I think that'd be a downgrade. I think that one.
You don't like,
you really
but
got
you
a
don't
guy
know.
like Jake.
But I mean, be honest. How much of Malik Washington have you studied?
Nobody knows Malik Washington, but again,
no, he was no. But I'm saying he was great at Virginia, and he's really good. He's really good. He's just a small receiver who doesn't.
I get it, but you got Jacob Cowling. He's 5'9". He's a small receiver.
Yeah.
You already got that.
But I mean, this guy's small but kind of yoked. I mean, this guy's short, but he's like, this guy's 5'8", 195 or whatever. He's strong. I know you haven't seen him, but Malik Washington has got a lot of talent. Just trust me when I say that. He's going to be really good. But I mean, I don't. I guess the point is this: as much as we all like Jauan, do you really believe that the Niners would pay Jawan Jennings over $15 million a year? Like, I've heard somebody like Coach Yak threw out, hey, 2 years, $30 million, let's get it done. Sounds good. Sounds about right. Do you really believe that the Niners are going to pay? They've already paid CMC. They've already paid Kittle. They've already paid Ayuk. They just drafted Ricky Pearsall, and they're going to now pay Jawan Jennings $15 million a year or more. Raj, as much as I wouldn't, I want to see Jawan stick around. Obviously, I don't want to see him traded. I would bet almost anything that the Niners will not pay him $15 million a year. What do you think?
I don't think they pay him over. I think again with like contract escalators and incentives, they may be able to get him to get that magic number if you hit this many touchdowns, this, that, the other. Because they did put some incentives like when Debo was around, right? They had like the rushing touchdowns and this and that. There's like $3 million here, this and that. So I feel like they can add some incentives, which is not guaranteed. But I don't think they'd pay him over 15. I mean, again, I love the guy, but I think they'd look to pay him between 10 to 12, maybe 13. That's the most I think they'd stretch it out to. And then you drop some incentives and say, hey, look, you want to make 15? Do this for us. Do this for us. Because again, he is very integral to this team. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not, but I feel like if he gets to the point where it's like too much for them, they're going to say, look, man, we love you, but at the end of the day, we got a business to do. And I feel like, again, the whole argument that I have is John Lynch needs to put his foot down and say, look, man, because if you do this to me this year, what's to say that Demo next year is going to be like, yo, I was a Pro Bowler. I know I just got paid.
Dude, forget that, Raj. Who's to say that McKivitz doesn't make a request 72 hours from now?
Yeah, exactly. Anybody could go into the office. That's the thing. This is a precedent that you're setting with Jennings. It's 2 years, and I get it. He was a restricted free agent, so it's a little harder for them to get paid. There's constraints and stuff, but at the same time, this is what you negotiated last year. Your agent. If you thought you were worth more, you could have ponied up and try to get a little bit more. Maybe you weren't going to get 15, obviously, but you could have got closer to that number. And boom, you had a hell of a year. And now you're like, oh damn, dude, I'm a Ferrari, man. Let me tell you, I'm a Ferrari. So it's going to set a precedent. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me. It's going to set the precedent where people are going to walk into that office and say, yo, Jennings, you paid him after a year. I want to get paid. Pay me.
Who's left? They've already paid everybody. Yeah. I know what you're saying, though. You're basically just saying, hey, anybody who wants a contract is just, you know what? I'll tell you the one thing that's unfortunate, and it's not anybody's fault. It's more just the way football teams age. But, the early part of this regime, there was so much optimism and, and all the talent was being gathered. And now it's like you got these talented players. They haven't won a Super Bowl, but everybody's at that point where they want to get theirs. And it's like, the curse of me, and I know that sounds a little over dramatic, but I mean, everybody's about themselves. Everybody's about getting paid. Jawan Jennings is 28. He can see his mortality within the sport. And he's like, man, I better get paid. What do you think? Everybody who gets paid at this point, it's like, Jalen Moore, I love it here, but no, somebody's going to offer me a ridiculous sum of money. I'm bolting. So and I don't blame these guys. You only have so much time to earn your money and make your money. But I kind of wonder if the Niners should, instead of kowtowing to every veteran and trying to believe that every single one of these guys is super special and integral, maybe they should be a little bit colder. Kansas City said goodbye to Tyreek. The Vikings said goodbye to Diggs. The Packers said goodbye to Adams. The Titans said goodbye to A.J. Brown. I mean, there's a lot of teams that just are faced with, do I pay my diva wide receiver? Screw it. No, we don't. Goodbye. See ya. So maybe the Niners, who have been the other way, maybe they've been a little too warm and fuzzy. Maybe they need to be a little bit more ruthless. Maybe they need to be like, screw him. No way. We're not doing it. Goodbye. I mean, I don't know. I love this player. He's a super tough player. I do think he'd be missed if you lost him. Mm-hmm. But I also saw him working out at minicamp, and I'm looking at his body, and I'm thinking he had 4.7 speed coming out of Tennessee. Everybody's body thickens and ages over time. And it's like, okay, if you have 4.3 speed and you lose a step, so what? You're 4.45. But if you have 4.7 speed and you lose a step, now you're 4.9. Now you're like as fast as like offensive tackles. And he already doesn't gain a lot of separation. I mean, if you just factor in just basic 28, 29-year-old physical regression, there's no chance in hell I'm paying him any kind of significant extension. If he wants to add a 1 year on and a couple more $1 million guaranteed, it's a minor little tweak that gives him a little bit more guaranteed and maybe 1 more year of, certainty or whatever, or, 1 more year of roster certainty. That's as far as I'm going, man. I'm not doing 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not. And I don't think they should either.
I'm not giving him more than 2. Again,
Yeah.
I said
2 more or 2 including this next year. See, I'd go 2 including this next year.
Okay,
I don't even think I want to go 2
1 year
more.
extension. You're giving him 1 year.
1 year. 1 year.
I guess I'd give him a 2 year extension because you might be able to work the numbers a little bit better. That's the max I'm giving him. I see where you're coming from 1 year because in 28, I think he's turned 29, so he'll be 31. At that point, it's like, oh wow, okay. So this is his last chance to really cash in the league. And I get where he's coming from. Where I get these players want to get money because not a lot of them are going to be able to cash in on their career. They want to make the most of it. And live in California, it's a little expensive. That $7 million probably is like $3 million after taxes and stuff. So I see where he's coming from. But at the same time, like, you got to play business because I think they were a little too nice because Christian McCaffrey asked for more money last year. He did. He had a calf injury. I mean, did he have the calf injury before he asked for more money? Who knows? That's another story for another day. I've heard that Jawan Jennings has been dealing with a little bit of calf issue, right? So that's a little risky, right? Trent Williams wanted more money last year. They gave it to him. So it's just like it is a precedent with the 49ers. I feel like if you beg for money, they're going to give it to you for the most part if you're one of their key players. And I feel like at some point, and that's why the Niners went to get younger players, go through the draft 11 players because they needed, get guys that are cheaper on contracts, build them, develop them, and say, okay, maybe we'll pay this guy. Well, this guy didn't live up to his draft, expectations. We're not going to pay him. So they kind of did a little bit of a retooling here this year, and they needed to after a 6-win season. So I feel like the 49ers are still in that weird little retooling situation where you just still can't pay everybody. And you have to really look at the roster because, yes, they paid Nick Bosa. Yes, they paid Fred Warner. Yes, they paid George Kittle. But at some point in 2-3 years, a lot of those contracts will be expiring or towards the end of it. And they're going to be a little older. So then are you going to bring them back again? Who knows? That's why you drafted this new wave of players. So the Niners are in a weird situation where they still have a lot of great talent, but they're kind of at this weird position where after these great players in 2 to 3 years, may not be on the team anymore. And then you have to look and say, we can't just pay everybody. We have to develop some players. And if you're asking for too much, we might need to kind of put our foot down. So, again, I love Jennings, but it's just a weird situation to be because every year it seems like we go through some drama. And we were so close to the finish line. Like we were right there. And then here we go.